Now joining us to discuss Nigeria's elections further, Abdullahi Boru Halakhe. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to talk a bit about what we just heard Robert talk about. So much of this is going to be focused on the future. And you have two candidates, we see them campaigning, they're very old. They're in their 70s. The average age, we were just talking about, how young is it?
It's 17.9, almost 18.
Almost 18. How can these people even relate to these candidates, and how frustrated do they have to be?
For many of them, they're really frustrated because if you look at both candidates, the incumbent is 76, Atiku is 72, and they're both older than the current state of Nigeria. So in many ways, that ought to be very frustrating. But it's a thing, it's a pattern across most of the African countries. If you look at the median age in most of the African countries and do that, you superimpose that on the age of the leaders who are presidents now, sure, you'll get a really fascinating picture. But also it's because entering politics is incredibly expensive. To have a campaign, to have a team, to really have a go at it, it's a really incredible thing that doesn't allow for easy entry.
It's interesting because that's one thing that our reporter on the ground touched upon, that the population has just been inundated with this every day. We just saw some of the confetti coming down. How frustrating does it have to be when you're looking at a country where 1/4 of the people are in dire economic situation and you're seeing this kind of money thrown around on a campaign? People want to have jobs, they want to have economy, they put their faith in Buhari 4 years ago. What's going to happen now?
It's a real challenge for a lot of African elections, but particularly for a country like Nigeria, that is the largest country in Africa in terms of population. It has tremendous amount of oil wealth that is being siphoned by mostly the elite at the top. They take all the cream, and people are just left to fight off. And in most of Nigeria, of course, some of the problems that we have are problems around insecurity. Because these kids, the youth, do not see any opportunity for upward mobility. They see all the wealth. They see all the politicians flaunting all the wealth. They know that they have tremendous amount of natural resources that do not benefit them.
That takes us a lot of different ways, but I want to talk about what's going on with security in the country. If you have this kind of disenfranchised youth, you have Boko Haram in the north, you have all kinds of insurgents that are threatening to disrupt the Delta area where the oil pipelines are. It seems like in these kind of situations, it's very easy for a young disenfranchised person to basically flock to one of these entities.
And this is the problem. When you have tremendous amount of governance gap like we have in Nigeria, where even Atiku Abubakar has been mentioned, adversely mentioned, or to have been allegedly involved in corrupt activities, such opportunities, such groups tend to exploit some of these governance gap. Because yes, they are largely part of the violence. So in areas where they live, they can say, look, we are able to provide you with safety and security. For a lot of people, they are so disenchanted with the state. All they want is provide me security, I'll be able to fend for myself. So these are all opportunities, the pull and the push factors that get a lot of people to join some of these violent groups.
There have been some kind of deals that have been made in the past that they don't import as many crops to allow people to grow and sell those entities from within Nigeria. But the prices are high, people are frustrated. We were talking about it a bit ago, the disparity in wealth. What people may not know after hearing about the poverty is how many millionaires, and it's expected to grow by 16% for the next 5 years.
And that is the other part. What level of intelligence do these people have, divine ways of making money and wealth that an average Nigerian cannot, that these guys are so wealthy compared to the rest? And that is why, for a lot of elite in Africa, accessing the state becomes the first step in accessing wealth, and secondly, to try and retain that wealth within themselves. That's why you see most of these politicians get recycled from one electoral cycle to another electoral cycle. And that's why they make money, use the money to access state, and they stay there. And that is why you don't see a lot of young people coming through.
We don't have a lot of time. I want to touch upon this, however, because a recent study I just read before I came out here showed that Nigeria could have a population of 410 million by 2050
More
with
than the United States.
with 1/4 of those people in dire economic situations. If something doesn't change, it seems like some kind of collapse has to happen.
And that is the problem. Because you are having, in an ideal situation, this is a demographic dividend. This is something that can push because they are young people, they have got access to technology, they're innovative, you just need to unleash their entrepreneurial, instincts. However, when the state doesn't function very well, what you have is a fairly disenchanted people that just become a burden to the other generation.
Excellent. Abdullahi Boru Halakhe. I failed to mention that you're a Senior Policy and Advocacy Officer for Africa at International Rescue Committee. You know it, I know it, now everybody else knows it. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.